Hi all, I've entitled this video Recovering After a Blunder because that's exactly what happened to me yesterday. I blundered in a game and I had to recover during the game, so I find this an interesting thing. So don't expect to see a very high quality game here because there are many mistakes, but I think it can still be useful to show this and tell you what happened not only on the board but also in my mind during the game. It's the first game of this season after the summer stop, so somehow I had to get myself in the right concentration again to play a long game, because this is the first game that I played during the club championship of this season that just started. Let's see, my opponent started with d4 and he played this very solid system with e3, and I chose to play a kind of a Queen's Indian setup with the fianchetto of the bishop on b7, castles, knight to d2, and here I thought for some time. I was thinking, what shall I play, d5 or c5, and I wasn't sure what to do. Both moves looked quite fine to me. c5 or d5. I played d5 in the game with the idea of having more control over this e4 square, preventing him from advancing the e4 pawn. But later, when I saw in my database at home, I saw that c5 has been played before and is, according to the books, a better continuation. But anyway, d5 is what happened in the game. He played c3 and now I played c5. Here I went with his queen to c2 and I play knight b to d7. The idea, of course, is that this h7 pawn is attacked twice by this battery of queen and bishop, so he's maybe threatening to take on f6 and after that take on h7, so that's why I played here knight to d7. Another option was to play the bishop to a6, pinning the bishop on d3, and in this way getting rid of my light square bishop that was kind of trapped in the pawn structure. But let's go back to the game. I played knight to d7 and now here I played b3, and I thought, okay, now it's weakening this c3 pawn. So what I did is I put my rook on the c file with the idea of later taking c takes d4. He placed his rook on c1 and I took on d4. Now he has to take with the e pawn, of course. And here I played queen to c7, and after I did it I thought, no, this is a mistake, because now he can take on h7 immediately, because my bishop on e7 is undefended. And he didn't do it. But let's have a look at what would have happened. And then he takes on h7. I can go with my king to h8, and then still I'm threatening bishop to a3. So that means that I attack the rook on c1 and then I can take on c3. So to prevent this, actually the only way for white is to play knight to b1, and then he has his knight in a, well, not a very beautiful place. He's not very active. So in that sense, after I had moved queen to c7 and I saw that he could take on h7, on one hand I had to admit that I had made a mistake, but on the other hand I saw that it was not that terrible. I could still continue playing. But in the game he didn't take on h7. He played another move that's actually not a very good one at all. He gives it the bishop's pair taking on f6, and now of course I'm better in this position. And here he continued with another very timid move, h3. So I started thinking that, hey, my opponent is someone who doesn't want to take any risk, and it looks like he cannot make a plan during the middle game. The opening he played very solid and with very logical moves, but now in the middle game he starts doing strange things. I played bishop to a3 now. Rook went to e1. I expected him to play the rook to d1, and the idea of this is that if I take on c3, after take, he could play knight to b1, attacking my rook and my bishop, because now the rook on d1 is defending the bishop on d3. So this is what I expected, but he played his rook here to e1. So now the bishop on d3 is undefended. I took here, he exchanged queens, and now he played rook to e3. And this is the moment that I blundered. I was totally focused on this threat of knight to b1. So what I did is I didn't see this simple threat of bishop takes h7 capturing my rook. So I took my bishop and placed it on d6, and at the moment that I released this bishop and pressed the clock, I realized that I was blundering, that he would take on h7. And here actually two things happen. On one hand, on the board we get this terrible position for me that I'm an exchange down, and psychologically something happens also. It's like you get a big a punch on the face, and you have to recover of this. You have to at this moment start thinking, okay, I blundered, but now let's forget about it and let's try to make something out of this position. How to fight back, how to restructure your own thoughts again, so you can still think the right way to try to save this game. And I decided that, okay, let's have a look at the position. I have two bishops. I need to open the center to have more possibilities for my bishops, especially my bishop on b7 doesn't look nice. So I played that knight to e4. He exchanged this knight, and now we are opening a little bit the position. So here I expected him to play knight to e5, but he didn't do it. He played a very odd-looking move, knight to h2, and I started getting more and more hope now, because this knight on h2 is not active at all. Maybe his plan was to go to g4 and then block my passed pawn on e3, something like that. I'm not sure. I played my rook to d8 with the idea of putting pressure on this d4 pawn, and here he made another ugly move. He played f3. So now again I thought, okay, he wants me to take on f3 so he can take back with the knight, and then his knight is back in the game. But of course I don't need to take on f3. So I simply activated more my bishops. My bishops are getting beautiful diagonals now. Bishop to a6, attacking the rook on f1. This rook went to c1, and now I went with the other bishop to f4, attacking the rook again. And now things start getting interesting for me, because I have this potential passed pawn here, and I have these two beautiful bishops that are placed on this very strong diagonals, controlling all these squares here. Here is the moment when actually my opponent should have given back the exchange. What he should have done is to take with the f-pawn on e4, because then I can take on c1, he takes back, I take on d4, and he can go with this rook to the 7th rank. I can take on e4, and then he takes on f7. So we get this endgame that looks, well, I think we both have chances here. But he didn't do this. I'll go back to the position after bishop f4. What he did is he played the very, well, let's say, natural looking move, in the sense of that we learn to keep our rooks on the open file. So he played rook to c2, and here I played rook takes d4, and now he's in very big trouble, because I'm threatening rook to d1 check, and if the king then goes to f2, then the h2 knight hangs. So I'm threatening to win a piece, and To prevent that, he played knight to g4, but then there is a very quick mate, rook d1 check, king f2, and then rook f1 checkmate. And this is how the game ended. So let's say on one hand, I'm not happy at all because of this big blunder that I made. But on the other hand, I am very happy about the way that I continued the game after that, still looking for where are my possibilities after this blunder. So I think maybe this can be useful for many to understand that our thoughts, our mind during chess is on one hand our big friend, because we can use our mind to make these plans and calculations. On the other hand, it can be a big enemy if you start getting depressed after a blunder. So even after a blunder, see if there are possibilities for you to come back and to fight back.